So, welcome to Remembering the Forgotten, a space where leaders think out loud without polish or performance. No scripts, no personas, just the quiet clarity that emerges when the noise drops and the mind is free to speak for itself. Today, I'm joined by my dear friend Mark Consigli, a global business lawyer and a general counsel who brings steadiness into complex environments and just recently added realtor as a trifecta to his curriculum. He's someone who understands that legal strategy is business strategy, a partner who protects momentum rather than slowing it, and a guide who helps companies move through commercial and regulatory complexity without losing clarity or pace. Mark listens until the real issue appears, removes friction where others add weight, and creates the conditions for leaders and businesses to navigate pressure without being consumed by it. So, with that, Mark, welcome to the show. So, before we begin, when I say stillness, I don't mean peace or quiet. I mean the place in you untouched by pressure, noise, or performance. The place that knows before the mind thinks. So, Mark, that's the layer I'm inviting you to speak from today. So, you ready?
Yes. Thank you, Marcus.
I'm very excited to have you with me today. So, here's my first question to you, Mark. Where in your life do you meet the you untouched by expectations?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think that I found that with my family. They both my for some well, to some extent with my parents, because no matter any of the achievements that I've had over my life or any of the advice, I'm still their son. Which can be
Mhm.
good and bad, right? And then
There's
also
no out, right?
yeah, it doesn't matter, you're just the guy, the kid, right? That we knew. But there is some calmness in that. And I also found that with my wife's family too. When I met her, she's the youngest of five girls.
Mhm.
Five girls. And I've always been the oldest in my family. And not that they put pressure on me, but there was always a lot of pressure on me. I felt with them, I could just be myself. And in fact, I got more positive feedback about the things I was doing from her side of the family, probably because I was new, than I did on mine. So for me, that was always calm. I always felt like when I showed up at any of her family functions, even to this day, I can just relax and be myself. So there is calmness in that.
That's beautiful. So, would you say that is where you can just be yourself without expectations?
Yes, and they also know me better than anyone else too. It's like so I couldn't even fake it.
I'm not
Right?
surprised.
Right?
Yeah, I'm
So
not
they're like
surprised.
just yeah. So I think yeah, that's definitely it. And so that's yeah, those are I guess two examples, different sides of the coin, right? But for the same example.
That's so interesting. You and I, we know each other for quite some time, and
Yeah.
I don't think we could count the hours we have been on calls together. But there is one parallel which I wasn't aware of, and I don't think I've ever shared that with you. When I joined Holly's family, it was on Christmas, and I just knew based on the caliber of that family,
Mm.
I can only win only one way, just be myself. One of them was a profiler, criminal
Wow.
profiler.
Oh,
Yes,
wow. Yeah.
yes, that was a great thing to know. So he would read my BS immediately.
Mhm.
So it was so freeing just to enter that house knowing I don't have to pretend. And as you say, you know, Holly's family, like parents died quite recently, but they knew me much better than my own parents who have been around me for so many years,
Yeah.
which is such a blessing,
Mhm.
sort, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. When I came into my wife's family, I wasn't the first male. Remember, she's the youngest of five girls. I wasn't even the first one with this surname, a similar surname,
Really?
as some of the others. And I wasn't even the first lawyer in the family. In fact,
Oh,
I was
oh,
still, yeah, there was already one. So those paths had been blazed and cleared.
that's
And
interesting.
yeah, I could just relax. And in fact, the first time I had met her parents previously, but the first time I met um, two of her sisters with their husbands,
Mhm,
right, was at a Christmas meal
mhm.
out at a restaurant at, near where, two of her sisters lived. So yeah, it was
That's
right around this
fascinating.
time.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I always felt comfortable there that I didn't have
yeah.
to do anything. And I think because they don't know you, maybe they listen better than your own family. They're more
Or
curious.
maybe they were just different people,
Yeah, they definitely were. They definitely
just
were. Yeah.
different people, literally.
In
So that
fact,
is interesting. So we even
oh,
learned something new about each
yep.
other now.
One last point. In fact, I enjoyed the attention so much, particularly from my mother-in-law, that my wife teased me all the time. She goes, "Well, I guess I can't bring you home anymore because I used to be her favorite as the youngest. Now you are."
That's another parallel we have. That's
So
so
that
funny.
was, yeah. So I sensed some jealousy there, but it was all, it was all in good fun. She obviously that was preferred to the opposite. The
Oh,
worst case
absolutely.
scenario.
Imagine
Yeah, yeah,
that.
the worst
Yeah.
case scenario. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it was always very easy, and they were supportive. They were actually more supportive of me than some of the things they were of my wife growing up too. So the
Mhm,
dynamics were completely it was completely different.
mhm,
And yeah, it was very relaxing. It was always very
mhm,
natural and relaxing to fit um in her family's environment.
mhm. That's beautiful to have. Not too many actually experience that ever, right?
Agreed.
So when we talk about stillness, Mark, can you remember a moment where all the noise fell away and something in you knew exactly what was true?
Yes. For me, it's always been more not, I wouldn't say it's a slow evolution, but um, for certain decisions, I usually like to, I know you call it meditate, but mine's a little bit different. Well, I'll tell you, we've talked about this, I've had long commutes in my life,
Mhm,
work commutes. And that's a lot of times where I would actually think not only about the day, but about certain decisions. Um, and on my rail line into New York, um, they introduced the quiet car, and I used to love it because I would either sleep or read or just think. But the thinking wasn't empty, it was active. So while there was a stillness, it was more, I knew that I was meditating in my own way. And so I think that's one example of I will go into that that mode. And then another way is actually with through physical exercise.
Mhm,
And we've
mhm,
talked about this too, where I will be distracted by something I'm thinking about
mhm,
to the point where, and I love it when this happens, it's not frequent enough, where any type of discomfort, not pain, right? Discomfort of
mhm,
that strenuous activity falls away, that I forget about the clock, I forget about the
mhm,
cadence, the pace. Um, that's that's very comforting for me as well. Um, and then so yeah, those would be two examples, but I'm not sure it's exactly a moment. For me, it's always an evolution because I probably overanalyze a lot of things, but what I've learned to do is filter and kind of redirect that energy into a more focused approach rather than kind of spinning the wheels of worry.
mhm,
That's where it's changed the most for me, is
mhm,
I try to make it productive activity.
mhm,
So, and it sounds like there's a lot of work going on, but it isn't. It's just
mhm,
mostly the distractions, the noise, they fall away. And I don't know if this adds to it too, but when I go to a physical activity, I shut down everything else that I'm doing. I
mhm, mhm,
can't um, multitask. I will have music, but that's it. And so that allows me to my mind to drift a bit into that area that is more relaxing. And then on the outside, it looks like I'm in a lot of pain and discomfort, but I'm not. I don't
So
know.
do you
It's
see,
just
do you see what you're actually describing, Mark? You're describing absolute stillness.
Hmm,
Because you know what's interesting? Stillness for me is quite opposite of what many people believe themselves it is. They call meditation stillness.
hmm.
And me, I can be a little bit sarcastic from time to time, a little bit of an actor, because they become very solemn, almost holy when they talk of stillness, right?
Right,
And
right.
you know me for quite some time. For me, stillness is absolute absence of no action. Stillness is, for me, absolute focused coherence.
Hmm.
So you actually do stillness without probably even understanding that you're doing it, because when you go into your train ride, what you're doing is you're basically lowering all the noise from outside, and you're going into an active process. And now I actually interpretate something which you can, say no to if you think it's not. But I believe those things did not come anymore from your mind, but what I would call from your executive functions.
Hmm.
So basically, a process in you got freed, which inside almost made you go into a different sphere.
Yeah.
Is that a kind
Yep.
of fair
Hmm.
to say?
Yep. Yep.
And you
And one of
see,
the
mhm.
oh, sorry. One of the side
No, no,
effects
just go ahead.
when I had shorter commutes that didn't involve a train that were maybe 15-20 minutes away, that was a shock to the system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I couldn't, I had a, I adjusted over time because the human body and the
Yep.
mind are amazing, right?
Mhm.
But I didn't, and it became different. I didn't have I would call it reflection, thought process,
Yeah.
quieting of the mind. Um, yeah, and I would pull back then a lot of memories too, right? That brought into
Hmm.
whatever I was focusing on at the time.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
it's it was definitely an it was
If you
the
think about it, it
external.
totally makes sense,
Yeah,
Mark,
yeah.
because you needed a certain amount of time to go into stillness. So when you had that 20-minute commute, what this basically meant was the noise from the day could not quiet enough.
Mm-mm.
And that's why I know when you go on the treadmill or when you go on a bike, you literally power yourself out. And I assume when you go into strenuous activity, you actually get faster into that zone than when you had to take a train ride, right?
The endorphins, yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like, let's say you're on a bike, you're almost like pedaling yourself into coherence,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's almost like it's kind of a fast train through the BS of your mind until you land on a level which otherwise without these strenuous activities,
Hmm.
other people do endurance running.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly the runner's high kicks
Hmm.
in, and if somebody looks from you from outside, it's almost like gone, right? Like not here anymore. So it's highly
Yeah.
interesting what it just shared.
Yeah.
So, what was a moment in your life, Mark, when you realized, and this is a totally different topic,
Hmm.
but a very interesting and important one, that
Sure.
you were actually living someone else's script? That's the first one.
Oh, okay.
And the second part is, and what cracked it open? So, when did you realize you were living from someone else's script, and what cracked it open?
Um, we've talked about this before, and it came right to me right away. That's why I had to write it down. Um, I associated my title and job with my worth. And what cracked? I did when I didn't have it anymore. Yeah, it was yeah, that was, and I wasn't even, and I think, I know you understand. I was never really chasing that. I I told myself I was never chasing that. Um, Maybe that wasn't the case. But I always felt that my effort, my dedication to my craft, my profession deserved, and that's the right
Hmm.
word,
Hmm. Hmm.
more return.
Hmm.
So it was just being on the bike or the treadmill and doing that faster without stepping back. And one of those examples was before this call, we talked a little bit about recent events. And you had asked me, Mark, how many of these half a dozen to a dozen jobs, careers you've had over your life, how many of those were through a network connection?
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, that's not three. That's zero, right?
Hmm.
Zero.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, I had my head down to the
Yeah,
literal grindstone,
yeah,
from
yeah.
prehistoric times, and didn't build any business relationships outside of these transactional relationships. Um,
You know what's interesting? You were wondering whether you chased something or not. Knowing you as well as I do, I don't think you did. I think you actually followed a conditioning.
I followed the conditioning.
A
Yeah.
conditioning,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yes.
I came up through that
Because
system, that educational
exactly.
system, right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's the philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I was
So
lost.
when you
Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. So when you realize that you're
Thank,
living someone else's script,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Absolutely, I was lost.
You're welcome. Was that when you got kind of forced, basically being let go? Or was that when you decided to leave the job? And I know you well, you have a talent to force someone else's hand to actually take the step when you're done.
Yeah. So over a period of about a year,
Mhm,
I chose to leave a situation where I thought was not healthy for either my career or my mindset.
mhm,
I wasn't happy, and we talked about that. And I thought I was taking control of this systemic process,
mhm, mhm.
and it was worse. I mean,
Yeah.
so I questioned all my judgment,
Yeah.
um, questioned my decisions,
Mhm,
particularly that one, did all the what if scenarios.
mhm,
It was hard. It was difficult, and
mhm,
and lost all, confidence.
mhm.
Um,
Remember when we met? Do you remember
yeah.
when I told you that if you're a corporate, and many of our viewers and listeners, Mark, are corporate,
Hmm.
if you're a corporate, you are there because of a conditioning. When you believe that you can just leave the environment, good luck, doesn't work.
Hmm.
So I do a little bit of a sidestep right now. So everyone who believes that they're done with corporate and are so fed up that they want to do what Mark just described, do the work on yourself while you are in corporate because you need to get rid of that conditioning.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you fall through all the cracks.
Hmm.
And I remember when I met you, like if somebody had asked me, what would you say is Mark's background? It wouldn't have been what it was. I know that much.
Yeah. And
So that
and
is a
I,
sign because you
yeah.
lost and left your identity behind.
Yeah, it's I yeah, you have to establish those network relationships. I mean, there's nothing more important. When you're in corporate, that's like your continuing education in the early part of
Mhm,
your career, both formal, right? If you're gonna pursue advanced degrees, and also on the job training, the network connections, the connections with real people
mhm,
has to be one of the skill sets that you learn. Um, and we talked a lot about the universe, and that is the universe. Because
mhm,
if you don't create that, it's not going to be
mhm,
there.
mhm,
And that you may not see any benefits ever from it.
mhm,
You're not going to see benefits from the people that you help the most. You may not see benefits from the people that you help the most, but then people you've barely spoken to may
mhm,
help you. It's,
mhm,
if we knew that formula, we would harness
mhm,
it and we'd
mhm,
all live happier lives, which I think that's part of it. That's what you're moving towards, but it is, oof, it's hard to explain. But that's the most important thing that I missed. In
mhm,
fact, when someone that I worked for that helped me, well, I thought helped me in my career, at least when I was at that company, not so
mhm,
much afterwards. When he retired recently, he said, and I saw it and I didn't respond, and I know you know who it is, and I certainly know who it is. He said in his post, now I am simply a lawyer.
mhm,
Like, his identity was this,
mhm,
general counsel, senior
mhm,
guy. And I'm
mhm.
thinking,
And it's
no,
still a lawyer as his identity after he lost or left that job, right?
right. But he was right. Now it's just a lawyer.
Yeah,
Where he
yeah,
was this, senior executive. And I'm
right.
thinking, I'm going, no, you should have solved that issue
Yeah.
before you left. So,
Most
but that
don't. Most don't.
I
So
know.
actually, I want to give you a little bit of of an
Sure.
insight I just had when we met. Remember when I introduced you to networking and then especially to working the net? In the beginning, it didn't work at all. Like you almost fought it as a friend. I think what we've done is we did a deconditioning. And the deconditioning led for you to understand who you really were. And basically, no one is interested in you being a general counsel or whatever you were before, right?
Hmm.
But you had to learn something which is not allowed, not wanted in corporate. You
Right.
had to become Mark Consigli.
Hmm.
And I believe that is the biggest step someone has to make
Hmm.
while they are in corporate to develop that muscle. And it's a totally different muscle, right?
Yes,
So you know
absolutely.
me, when I came to the US a year ago and I suddenly realized, gosh, I have a couple of weeks, I went on a couple of calls, 5 pieces, and within 8 weeks, I was on 100 plus calls.
Mm.
And those led in the end to a Rolodex of about 500 high quality people. But Mark, when I went on those calls, and you know some of those people because I introduced you to them,
Hmm.
I wondered, what the heck do I have to bring to the table?
Hmm.
Even at my then level, Mark,
Hmm.
I wondered. You know what my answer was? Me,
Hmm.
me. Because, you know, I've done that work for 20 years, the one I always propagate for other people to do. I did it. But I wasn't aware that now the payout comes from all those hours invested in getting to know myself. And when I remembered one of my mentors' words, Marcus, always appear that they never forget you,
Mm.
and always believe that you will be an enrichment for anyone who meets you. That's how I went on those calls. That's high order, believe me, high order. And I literally realized during those calls, it's true. I am enough. This is who I am.
Hmm.
So you see, it has all to do with stillness.
Hmm.
I believe your endurance sport, your your walks with Winston,
Yes.
all that stuff helps you
My
to
sidekick.
go. Yeah, your sidekick, right? Helps you to go into stillness.
Yes, yes.
And I believe that's where the deconditioning took place,
Mhm.
right?
Thanks for
And
reminding me about those walks because there are many occasions he almost pulls off my arm because I'm deep in thought about something, not
makes
stressed, a
sense.
very peaceful thought. And he takes off, and I am actually surprised. He goes after a squirrel or something, and
Yeah,
I have him on the
he's a
leash,
dog.
and I was like, oh, I was so. One thing I wanted to bring up though, when you reminded me when I first was working with you, as a client, former client, current client, right? Um, I was not sleeping well, and shortly after,
Mhm,
we talk about stillness with
mhm.
sleeping and thought because my mind had been racing
Yeah.
with a lot of thoughts and worries and things like that. So that completely went away for any of your future clients because that was complete stillness. I needed stillness in my mind at night to recharge, have those deep thoughts, recharge for the next day. And I wasn't having that because it was, again, the distractions.
Mhm. And that's exactly what I'm saying is we human beings are so conditioned in living in noise
Hmm.
that you remember me talking about the hamster wheel.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot imagine my surprise or my shock when one of my acquaintances suddenly said to me, she's a female high level executive, said to me, Marcus, you're actually missing one aspect. In corporate America, people not only get accustomed to a hamster wheel, you know what comes next? They actually start believing they are hamsters.
Oh, sure.
Can you see the conditioning now, right?
Hmm.
So every time when I get on a call with somebody, the stillness leads them to take a little hamster foot and put it outside of the hamster wheel. And they're humans.
Hmm.
Most of the times, as you know yourself, they go back into the hamster wheel, become hamsters again.
Hmm.
But if that happens enough times, suddenly a muscle memory says, you know what? Not only does it actually feel great, I feel like, you know, that's when the question comes, is
Hmm.
this as good as it gets?
Yeah.
Or is there more to my life? Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what stillness does. It lowers your guards.
Hmm.
It basically puts almost like, yeah, I sometimes describe it like this. When I meet someone, it's almost like a protection, whatever you want to call it. It's like a little wall around us
Hmm.
where all the noise, almost like a Faraday cage, right? Where all the noise, everything stays outside. And then suddenly the other person is, sometimes for the first time, able to hear their own inner voice, which is incredible. I believe this explains what you said, that when you started working with me, you had sleepless nights, you had stresses, and then you actually suddenly learn how to lower it to
Hmm.
yourself. You
Hmm.
remember when I told you, for me, there is only one reason why I do what I do, because there is never a chance of an addiction. Never. Like agency is the absolute first and foremost thing for me when I work with somebody, which is very important to understand because, you know, many coaches, they want their clients for lifetime, which is interesting. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, which brings me to my second last question mark, and it is, what most pulls you out of yourself and what lets you return to it again?
Hmm. What most moves me outside of myself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, if you're in stillness,
Mhm.
if you're in coherence, what can happen that pulls you out of it? And how can you return to it again?
I think specifically, obviously, the outside influences like the cell phone, laptop, media, those are all
Noise.
noise, right? That's the quick answer. The other thing is that there are some short, medium, and long-term obligations that go
Mhm,
with any life, society, the mortgage, the payments of utilities, things like that. That's, that's the worrying part that comes in because,
mhm,
the raising of kids, tuition,
mhm,
um, taxes, things like
mhm,
that.
mhm,
So, healthcare, all of those will get you out of it. But those are, those items are, if, uh, with a decent amount of time, can be planned out.
mhm.
They have longer, in most cases, uh, you have time to, put a plan together for that. The quick ones, and Winston is barking now. He can get me out of it too, pulling on my arm again because of the squirrel. But in this case, it's somebody at the door. Um, the electronic noise right now, I think, is like the most immediate one in our day-to-day world. When
Like
I
social media.
Oh gosh, yeah. Everything. And that's
Mhm,
what I meant.
mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. And when I walk with him, it's funny. I will listen to music
Mhm,
for my workouts, whether it's strength or cardio. When I walk with him, I don't. I want to
mhm,
hear the birds. I want to hear the squirrels, kind of chittering at him because he's in the area. They don't like him.
mhm,
Probably don't
mhm,
like me
mhm,
either. I want to
mhm,
hear like a screech of a hawk,
mhm,
and we can see down here we get gators every now and then. I want to have experienced that, so I take that in. That helps
mhm,
me to get the stillness, believe it or not, because that's all
mhm,
natural.
mhm,
Um, so I don't even listen to music on those walks. You
mhm,
reminded me of that. That is definitely one of my daily routines
mhm.
of getting ready. And yeah, and twice a day, in the morning, half hour in the morning, half at night, about a mile each time. So yeah, I think the distractions are social media, all because there it's all comparisons and vanity. Much of it is. There are some people that are trying to do good, but they're just drowned out by the other noise.
And sadly, my opinion about highly spiritual people, because in the end, I believe our path leads to become humans.
Mm.
And I understand that Winston is literally the little guy who takes you out of your environment, which is noisy, right?
Yeah.
And he's the one who actually helps you ground.
He does. He does. He also takes a lot of attention because I have to make sure he's focused as well. For the most part he is, but every now and then he surprises me as I drift off into my own, he reminds me, he's like, "Hey, it's still my walk." I'm like, "Okay, okay." Um, but that's all, I look forward to it every day. A lot of
Mhm,
people, maybe that former executive is wondering that's the thing when you're not in that structure. And I
mhm,
realized I craved it too.
mhm,
On a commute, my commute would start at 4 in the morning, and then I wouldn't get home till like 7 or 8 at night. So, that was my day. And then there's a few hours that I'm home, hopefully go to
mhm,
bed by 10. So that's like two
mhm.
or 3 hours I have with the family.
It's pretty much over. Yeah,
When that was gone, I was completely lost.
yeah, makes
What am
sense.
I what am I going to fill my time with?
Yeah,
Um,
I remember those times.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
all the worrying kicks in. So, I thought that kept me grounded, but it wasn't, you're right, it was the hamster wheel. I was a hamster and just trying to go faster, I guess.
Yeah, and if you think about like if you leave or lose your job, the conditioning of that corporate world is absolutely still here.
Hmm.
There is no place where you can fit anything into it. And at the
Sure.
same time, you have a huge void because nothing is here to occupy that fullness,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
I remember like that deconditioning was quite tough. So as we get to the last question, so picture this, Mark. There will be many people who listen, and there will be people who feel lost in that noise. What is one thing you would want them to remember is still true even in that noise?
That deep down, even though it's been suppressed or hidden or locked away in a dungeon, there is still net worth there. It was sacrificed for the structure, for the process, or for the corporation. And people have asked me this too, and I've thought about it, is the best thing to do is to you have to talk to another human at that point. Don't don't necessarily talk to a computer generated algorithm, right? That is not going to give you that will give you the answer that you seek, I think. And we talked about this too. It's a mirror, right, of your own
Mhm.
personality.
Yeah,
Um,
if you're distorted, it just distorts you more. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And if you want positive feedback, it's going to give you that, but I don't think it's going to give you the critical feedback that's
Yeah.
required. So talk to another human, and since we're on the call, I would, anybody that is thinking about this, certainly you're at the top of the list for me.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
and yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it is. It's that human interaction to remind them that they are human again, to
Mhm.
remind them that they as an individual do have a worth that is outside
Mhm.
of a title, outside of a
Mhm.
salary, outside of all the material things. There's we started the discussion with family. There's a family there.
Mhm.
There could be kids, there could be adults, parents that I'm basically caring for now.
Mhm.
I'm more their Uber driver, and I get constant, you like this one, I get constant comments about my driving, which I've said I am more than happy to use this to coordinate your rides through Uber or Lyft, your preference. To which they say, "Oh, it's okay." So yeah, but
Not
to
that
be
bad.
that's it's a veiled threat, but in the best way possible, I can tell them. Um, but I'm still their child, right? So that's where it's going to come
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is to reconnect with that human interaction and then try to find that stillness. Because all the thoughts are going to be going at 1,000 miles an
Mhm.
hour. Your routine is thrown off. You don't have the structure that you cling to. The hamster wheel is gone. The hamster wheel is gone, and you're in an empty cage. Maybe you're outside of the
Mhm.
cage
Mhm.
looking in,
Mhm.
thinking it's so safe in there.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah, it's your identity.
that's where it was. So you really need to,
Absolutely.
I think that's it. You have to really find out what it means to be a human and your net worth. Because I remember that was the other thing that, you know, the unlearning and the relearning of your net worth, your value,
Mhm.
and how you can help others. And I've gone from zero networking to like, the networking on steroids now. And and then even there, it's one extreme to the next to find the balance in between, right? The right connections, not just the entire universe that's out there. So that's what I would, that's my recommendation
Beautiful.
is reconnect with a human who sees and sees your value and help you find it again.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Mark, for being my guest today.
Thank you,
Your
Marcus.
pleasure. Wonderful. So, this was Remembering the Forgotten, a conversation held in clarity, not performance. And if something in this exchange helps you see differently, carry that forward.